Okay, you're going to need these colours of paint: white, your two yellows, red, your burnt sienna and your blue, and something to put your paint on and mix it on, and some water in a jar, and your brushes. Okay, so this is the background box that you want to put your skull in. So you've done your composition drawings, you've had a look at where you're going to place things, tried some things, and then you've made a final drawing just indicating where the main shadows are. So let's have a look at how we start. I've already started a little bit of work here, so I've already patched in the main tones, and now you can see I'm just beefing up the darkest areas. This is a mixture of my burnt sienna and blue, and I'm just trying to make sure that I've got enough darkness, so I'm layering my paint so that I'm putting dark over dark just to build it up slowly. You can always go over things with paint, but it's easier to go from dark towards light. So all those dark shadow areas in the original photograph, I'm now putting in layers to darken those up. I need enough contrast in this background so that things are going to look really good. I'm going to make the forms pop, and you'll notice that I'm painting the background first. I'm not bothering about the skull and the eggs and the lemons yet. I'm just making sure I get those boxes right. I was really careful drawing them up. Now I'm just making sure that the dark bits are dark enough. So that's really important. Now I'm going to move into my midtones. Most of the background is mid-tone, so a bit of yellow mixed with my burnt sienna. I'm using water or spreader. Water is fine to thin my paint here so that my layers are a little thin to start with. I'll just keep adjusting the colours. The edges are quite a lot lighter, so I'm putting those in just briefly. And then you can see I'm brushing them pretty loosely to lighten up those mid-tone areas. I'm just making a layer of that lighter orangey brown that I've made with the yellow and the burnt sienna. I'm lightening it up. You can see these brush strokes. I'm slabbing them on, crisscrossing them to try and get a similar texture to what I can see on that piece of wood in the painting. In the photograph. I'm not too worried about the texture. I'm really just concentrating on trying to get the right amount of contrast. So now even down that back corner, these front bits, they can be lightened up a little bit as well. So far not too bad. This area needs to be lighter, so I'm lightening that up quite a bit, and I'm using a bigger brush to do that. Now when it comes to these front areas, some of them will need to have several layers before they're light enough. Now I'm swapping to a smaller brush because I'm going to do some of those really thin ledges. So I'm going to mix in some white now with my yellowy orange colours, and just really carefully painting in those edges. You'll see I'm keeping my wrist off the painting. I'm just pivoting on my elbow on the table, just trying to keep those edges pretty straight. Always running the brush away from my centre of my body, away towards the outside so I can see where I've painted. Okay, so those edges are starting to pop up quite nicely now from the background. And I'm even going to go back in some of those other areas that were light. Now that they've dried, acrylic paint often dries darker, so I'm lightening those up again. Once again, I'm giving them another layer, always working towards lighter and lighter layers. Maybe a little less spreader or a little less water in the paint this time. It's a bit thicker. I'm even lightening up this area behind the lemon on the bottom, because that lemon's really got to pop out. So you can see I'm really bulking up the light. Really a lot more white in this paint now, and it's starting to jump out quite heavily. That also means that now I need to go back and I need to check my photograph, and I need to have a look at the amount of contrast in that background. This front bit, you can see big brush, brushing in really quickly. There's not a lot of detail there. This area up in the corner where the eggs are, that needs a lot more contrast, so I've really beefed that up. And this is what the background looks like. So you can see it's not that complicated. Brush strokes aren't that tight, it's fairly loose. That's our background. Next episode, we look at the objects.